Imagine looking up and seeing millions of tons of solid stone drifting overhead, 54 massive cities suspended miles above the earth, eclipsing the sun. This was the reality of the Netherese Empire, a civilization split entirely by altitude. Up in the clouds, the elite arcanists of High Netheril lived in perfect magical luxury, while the commoners of Low Netheril were left below, tethered to the dirt. These were entire mountain peaks inverted and carved into urban centers. To keep billions of tons of rock airborne for centuries, the Empire relied on a regime of heavy, continuous engineering. The Netherese achieved a peak of human advancement, but they built it upon a foundation of unsustainable arrogance, a blind assumption that the engine keeping them aloft would never fail. The Mythallar was the engine's heart, a crystalline node branching energy outward to counteract gravity. It was a receiver, tethered directly to the weave, the hard-coded grid of magic. When the subterranean Ferrum siphoned the Earth's magic, the weave fluctuated and the power grid stuttered. The result was a slow-motion catastrophe. As the power failed, the once lush landscape withered into an expanding desert wasteland. When a hyper-advanced society faces a systemic collapse, its architects often resort to radical, system-breaking measures rather than accept a return to the ground. Karsus was the Empire's gifted arcanist, and he refused to watch the engines fail. Instead of repairing the Mythallars, he decided to hack the universal power plant itself. He spent over a decade developing a spell called Karsus's Avatar. It was a surgical strike designed to usurp the goddess Mystril and transfer her administrative control over the weave directly to himself. The moment he completed the spell, Karsus's mortal frame was flooded with the unrefined, unprocessed energy of the entire weave. He successfully seized the power, but he immediately realized his fatal miscalculation. He had stolen the energy, but he lacked the divine omniscience required to process it. He had taken control of the system just as it was reaching its breaking point. Hijacking a foundational law of physics without understanding its regulatory architecture guarantees a crash. Karsus's incompetence was tearing the weave apart. To save reality from complete annihilation, the goddess Mystril sacrificed herself to sever the connection and reboot the system. The consequence was immediate. The weave briefly flatlined, and all magical physics ceased to exist. High up in the stratosphere, the constant, vibrating hum of 54 massive Mythallars suddenly stopped. It was replaced by a dead silence. With the sudden reassertion of gravity, millions of tons of unsupported stone began to drop. The mages realized their world was falling. As his connection to the weave was cut, Karsus's body petrified into stone. In his final moments of life, he watched as his home, his family, and his entire civilization plummeted toward the earth. Removing the supreme load-bearing pillar of reality causes an immediate, silent reversion to base physics. The impact was concussive. 50 floating cities slammed into the earth, obliterating the infrastructure of High Netheril in a single afternoon. For the millions of people living within those cities, the end was instantaneous. The pinnacle of human civilization was reduced to rubble and ash in minutes. Only 3 enclaves survived. As they fell, the newly reincarnated goddess of magic caught them and gently lowered them to the ground, leaving the remaining population as scattered refugees. The collapse erased the centralized infrastructure of knowledge, setting human advancement back millennia in a single day. When the system rebooted, the new goddess, Mystra, restored the weave, but she permanently altered the laws of magic to ensure this could never happen again. She implemented Mystra's ban, a hardline universal patch that permanently disables the casting of any spell above the 10th level. Today, the once lush empire is the Anaurok Desert. The jagged tips of Netherese spires now serve as massive gravestones half buried in the wasteland. Yet fragments of this hubris remain. Artifacts of unrefined Netherese magic, like the volatile orb trapped within the wizard Gale, still exist as ticking time bombs. Karsus's Folly remains a demonstration that some laws of physics are locked for a reason, and hacking reality leaves permanent, inescapable scars.